Now that we've learned our major chords and minor chords in the open position, we're going to start learning seventh chords. And in this lesson, we're going to start with G7 and D7. So go ahead and copy these down on your chord diagram. G7 is played like this: 3, 2, 0, 0, 0, 1. And D7 is played like this, from the D string: 0, 2, 1, 2. Now you might have noticed the D7 looks very much like a D, but just kind of inverted, flipped on its axis. And G7 looks a lot like G, but instead of holding the third frets of the B and the E string, we're holding the first fret of the E string. Now, seventh chords serve to add tension to a chord progression. If we're in the key of G and we play a D7, that adds restlessness to the chord progression. That draws us back and urges us to go back, to be at rest, to be at G. And we call this a resolution. Now, the strongest resolution we can have is when you go from the fifth note of a scale back to the first note, or the 1. In the key of G, it would be G, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, D being the fifth note from G, and G being the first note, 1, in the key of G. If we play those two chords, D to G, it feels at rest. Now, if we add more tension to that fifth note with a seventh chord, it feels more at rest and more resolved when we go back to our first note, G. This next exercise will show off how we can resolve through a chord progression. We're going to play C, D7, and G, strumming on 1, but we're going to count to 3 this time instead of 4. The chord progression will go like this: C, D7, and then G. Now we'll also use the anchor technique through this chord progression. From C to D, I'm going to anchor my index finger on the first fret of the B and play that D7. And from D7 to G, I'm going to slide my ring finger to the third fret of the E to play the G. Take note also of how we're playing G. We're not fretting it how we've done before, but instead I'm stretching my ring finger to the third fret of the E string and forming the top part of the chord with my index finger and middle finger. Now let's try this with a metronome. We're going to strum on beat 1, and we're going to count to 3 in each measure. 1, 2, 3, ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we can also move this backwards to get more practice with our fingers. So we're going to go G, D7, C, and then we're going to end on an extra G and loop all of that again. 1, 2, 3, ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now to practice G7, we're going to reshape our G chord again. This time, we're going to use our ring finger and middle finger for the top part of the chord. So third fret of the E with my ring finger, second fret of the A with my middle finger, and pinky is going to press the high E string on the third fret. Now to transition from this shape to G7 becomes really easy simply by lifting up your pinky and pressing down your index finger on the first fret of the high E string. Try that a few times, just going between G and G7, just getting that movement down. This is a great exercise to stretch your fingers, and that way be able to reach further frets. This next exercise will go G, G7, C, and G at the end, and we'll loop that all again. We're going to strum on beat 1, counting to 3 along with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And a little bit faster. 1, 2, 3, ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now you can tell with this shaping of G, it becomes really easy to transition to C. All you have to do is move your middle and ring fingers down, keeping the same staggered shape between the strings. Now one thing you can do is practice just this movement to get it down. Not strumming anything, you can add your pinky and then add your index finger on C, and then just get this movement. Try to press your fingers all at the same time in each chord shape. Now to practice these new chords, we're going to learn the song Amazing Grace. It has G, C, D7, D, and G7. I'm going to put the song up on the screen so you can pause and take a look and practice at your own pace, moving between the chords. Now let's try that slowly with a metronome, strumming on beat 1 and counting to 3 in each measure. 1, 2, 3, ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you found that switching between any two chords was a little bit difficult, then try to pause and practice just those two chords back and forth. Let's say it was G and D7. Take your time and practice just moving between those two. You can also just practice your left hand without strumming anything, making that shape and making sure you press with all your fingers at the same time. Now let's try that a little bit faster. 1, 2, 3, ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now if this is still a little bit difficult, you need more practice with G, C, and D. Try using the anchor technique that we learned from Sweet Home Alabama. Playing this shape of G anytime you have a G, even for G7. Playing C9 anytime you have a C, and playing D anytime you have a D or a D7. The last thing I want you to try is to strum in beat 1 and beat 3. This will force you to transition between those chords a little bit faster. So if you feel comfortable moving between those already, try this out. Go. 1, 2, 3, ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1,